federal government looks to technology to address human capacity and resource challenges in the education sector.
We are very enthusiastic about the reaction of the Vice President. The Vice President mentioned how this is important for the President and has really encouraged us to implement this work on this program and finalize it.
Borno State Governor supervises distribution of relief materials to flood victims.
So far, so good. We have mobilized cooks, and they have started cooking food in this camp. So these are immediate palliative measures.
House of Representatives moves to support local sourcing of medicines to enhance public health.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on floods and emergency response.
Again, we are going to Maiduguri, where recent flooding in the state capital has affected millions of people with yet unknown number of casualties.
So devastating, Claire. The flood was reportedly caused by the Alau Dam in Konduga local government area, overflowing its banks due to structural damage and heavy rainfall.
And many people have been displaced as a result, and there is need for shelter, clean water and food. We heard the governor just a while ago telling us, of course, what has been done. The flood has affected critical infrastructure, destroying bridges, hospitals, schools, and heightened the risk of disease outbreaks.
The Borno State government is appealing for humanitarian support, with the UN and partners working to assess the situation and provide assistance.
Indeed, and another state that has also been ravaged by flood recently is Bauchi. Now, several local government areas in that state, including Bauchi itself, Jamari, Darazu, and Krifi, were also affected.
Well, the flood was caused by heavy rainfall and the overflow of rivers, resulting in the displacement of more than 50,000 people. Hundreds of homes have also been destroyed or damaged. Now, when we say 50,000, of course, that's conservative. That's at the beginning, because at the moment, the Borno State government is talking about affecting more than 1 million people, which has now affected food security, critical infrastructure such as bridges and roads. The damage now increased risk of waterborne diseases, as well as loss of livestock and property.
Absolutely devastating. But the Bauchi state government says it has declared a state of emergency and has also appealed for humanitarian support, just like Borno. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and other key players are also working round the clock to provide relief materials, shelter, and most importantly, medical aid to affected communities and people.
The flood has highlighted the need for improved flood management and control measures in the state, including the maintenance of dams and waterways and the implementation of early warning systems to mitigate the impact of future floods.
And so today on Good Morning Nigeria again, we will be looking at the challenges of flood management, the adequacy of disaster preparedness, and stories of resilience from affected communities. Yesterday on this program, we talked about how we can utilize excess water, and I'm sure that, Victor, some of those guests, we're here to also talk about what can be done, to prevent, future, devastations from flooding, as has been the case. So today we invite you to join us as we once again navigate the complexities of flood and emergency response in our country. We will also explore the ways forward for a more disaster-resilient future. Welcome to the program. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurazak.
And I am Victor. So let me also welcome you to today's program. We are reaching you on the network service of the NTA. We're playing host to Chukwudi Okolubaja shortly for the newspaper review, but that will be after we get highlights of the news from Comfort Amodu. Good morning, Comfort. What's in the news?
Good morning.
What's
Good morning,
comforting?
Victor and Claire. Well, quite interesting stories as the World Bank proposes partnership on key human capital projects to boost health, governance and education. The federal government says it will integrate technology into the nation's educational infrastructure to address human capacity and resource challenges to improve learning, while Vice President Kashim Shettima gave this assurance during a meeting with the World Bank. Nigerian team led by the country director Ndame Diop at the presidential villa Abuja.
Delivery of services at the facility level, making sure that the resources, financial resources, go all the way down to the facility and are utilized, making sure that the healthcare workers and the teachers are not only recruited in good quality, but also are present to deliver those services. We are very enthusiastic about the reaction of the Vice President. The Vice President mentioned how this is important for the President and has really encouraged us to implement this work on this program and finalize it, implement it as soon as possible.
And now to Borno State, where Governor Babagana Umar Zulum has personally provided provision of relief to victims of Maiduguri flood disaster at a designated camps within the metropolis and environs. The governor was accompanied by top government officials, including members of the National Assembly and state government officials.
Distribute food and non-food items to all of them. So far, so good. We have mobilized cooks, and they have started cooking food in this camp. So these are immediate palliative measures.
And as a follow-up, the Northeast Development Commission has promised to work with relevant government agencies towards providing immediate relief assistance to victims of the disaster that ravaged most parts of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. This is after an assessment tour of the areas affected by the management team of the commission headed by the Managing Director Mohammed Goni Al-Khali. As an interim measure, the commission will liaise with the state government as well as NEMA to provide temporary relief to victims pending full investigation and assessment of the situation. And the Managing Director described the incident as unfortunate and advised residents of flood-prone areas to exercise great caution and avoid such areas for their own safety. And reports from the affected areas indicate that flood waters have receded and displaced residents are currently returning to their homes. And now to enhance public health, the House of Representatives says it would promote the enactment of laws that will encourage local sourcing of medicine to enhance public health in the country. This was during an oversight visit by members of the House of Committee on HIV/AIDS, Tuberculosis, Leprosy and Malaria to a healthcare organization in Lagos. Our members of the committee who were taken through the processes for manufacturing medicines expressed the desire of the Parliament to provide legislation that will support research and access to quality treatment for diseases that are still public health burden in Nigeria. And Deputy Chairman of the committee, Abubakar Zango, says understanding of the challenges of the sector is key to advocate increased funding and legislation that supports research and comprehensive health care for Nigerians. The committee says it will engender collaboration with relevant agencies and organizations to eliminate public health threats. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says ongoing implementation of transformational policies that are unlocking the country's potential has emboldened the federal government not to relent until it takes Nigerians to the promised land of prosperity. at an expanded management retreat organized by the National Orientation Agency. The minister added that the agency, under his watch, would not compromise its efforts towards a national rebirth through national value orientation.
I look forward to working with the agency to, and I quote, kickstart on the President's directives a nationwide reorientation and reawakening campaign, and I'll be requiring a comprehensive roadmap from you within the shortest possible time. You already have the experience of doing this, as well as the skills and the enthusiasm to do so, end of quote. I am delighted, therefore, today to say that we have since then gone very far in this regard, producing a brand new national values charter for our dear country.
Those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Victor after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We bet solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA. The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
I'm the photographer Black Milk. I have an exhibition in 8 weeks about how things get better with time. Darling Natural Twist inspired me. I'm seeing how the twists blend with her hair over time, how she actually feels more confident. She's really more beautiful every week. That's definitely worth celebrating. Darling Natural Twist. Twists that get better every day, just like you.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather? Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with Germ Defense gives you protection. Rainy season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's Germ Defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with a transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin.
It created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
We must all join hands to work hard so that we build a country for our grandchildren.
My hope is that we develop as a nation where every citizen is given his due right there is transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Put the interests of this country first and foremost. Interests of Nigeria is being one nation, one people.
The need, if I mean, to put things right, things that have gone wrong before, to try and and put right. For this, for the love of country.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on, the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again on Good Morning Nigeria, and it's live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. Now it's time for newspaper review, and that will be coming up shortly.
We thank you for staying with us, and Chukwudi Okolubaja has just joined us. It's a pleasure to see you.
And make a remarkable observation.
Did I make a remarkable
And if I get angry, I will say Chukwudi Okolubaja is in the building.
There are times when you make comments about me, actually I get taller, at least in my mind.
Chukwudi, just before we go, what do you call this? Is it telepathy or what?
They arrange a uniform now for presentation.
I beg your pardon.
Who be Onisi, who be Agliga?
No, they keep spying. They keep spying on me.
No, it's minds. It's called like minds.
Yes.
Sometimes presenters know colors.
It's called telepathy.
Yeah. Colors,
So where do we begin from?
Yes.
Okay. Let's lead with the leadership, which also leads with the Allow Dam collapse. Our livelihoods washed away by flood. That's according to Borno residents. And that story on page 4 has several riders. They cry out for food, shelter, potable water, say flood came like a thief. UN raises the alarm over cholera outbreak, malnutrition. 37 killed, 400,000 displaced. That's according to NEMA. Presidency, NAS, devise relief strategy. And the picture story gives an idea of what the situation is in Borno. And above that story, a tiny strip it is. FG partners traders to curb consumer exploitation. That one is on page 28. And above that, Nigeria loses $1.5 billion to open defecation. To find out how, check the rest of that story on page 7. And above the masthead, Kano education reform, inspiration to other northern states. That's according to stakeholders. And the story is on page 18. And on page 26, Edo 2024, PDP may not sign peace accord. That's according to Governor Obaseki. And by the right here, just a few tiny stories. 9 die in Kanu Zaria road crash, page 14. End bad governance protesters get 100 million naira bill, page 14. Petrol jacks Nigeria's import bill to 12.5 trillion naira in Q2, page 27. And 10 die, 3 injured in Oyo header farmer clash, page 23. Let's get you to the blueprint. And the blueprint has a couple of stories different from the one we've already read. On flooding, Pandef raises the alarm over imminent dangers in coastal states. APC, Akpabio, Abbas urge FG, states on humanitarian challenges. IGP deploys 35,000 personnel, 8,000 others, bans vigilante corps. Obaseki kicks as parties sign peace accord today. INEC tasks EFCC, ICPC on vote buyers. And Oba of Benin orders spiritual cleansing. That's in relation to September 21 Edo Guba. And just below the nameplate, Ajero, don't endanger UK-Nigeria relations. Ex-envoy warns UK TUC. Page 6. And on business, okay, let's leave business. Let's talk sports. I'm still in charge of Super Eagles. Eguavon declares. Page 32. And terrorism providing cover for other criminal activities in Nigeria. CDS, that's Chief of Defense Staff. That story continues on page 8. I think we should leave it here so that
there's nothing. There
is more.
Nothing more to read.
There's more.
Nothing more to read. Okay, I think the only story I'll take from the Nation is the lead story, and it's also on the flooding and the devastations. It says President Tinubu okays 108 billion naira for states to tackle flooding and erosion, and 1 million people displaced by Maiduguri National Calamity Dam burst. I think that's just about it. Other stories Victor had read, but there's also an interesting picture on the front page there, and that's the picture of the Nigerian Army truck evacuating trapped victims of the Maiduguri flood. You see them, you see the members of the Nigerian Army there helping one of the disabled victims right there. And maybe I should even start on that note, Chukwudi, to say well done to our Nigerian Army and of course all the responders, who have rallied round, the victims in Maiduguri and other places where there's severe flooding, taken place.
NEMA, civil defense, paramedical staff. But I particularly mentioned the army yesterday. Apart from defending the nation's territorial integrity, the army, when I say the army, I'm talking about all the forces, are also known to come in at times of calamity. That is when you know that the engineers of the engineering corps of the army can raise a bridge within 24 hours. May God bless them. Yesterday, I had reason to beat our chest again when I said we stopped the wars in Cameroon, in Sierra Leone and Liberia. Yes, there was this label ECOMOG, but we know who funded 3/4 of that effort. So I really praise them. And now that you mention it, going to those floods, really, 37 killed, 400,000 displaced, and that's coming from NEMA. So the figures are authentic. It tells you how devastating.
Is that in Maiduguri or Bauchi?
No. I'm talking about the Allow Dam. Yes, please. I switched that.
No, but it's a different thing. If you say 400,000 displaced, more people are affected.
Yes,
because the figures.
More people are affected. The Borno State government is claiming 1 million.
That's why I was.
Those of us who live where water is not really a menace. My part of Delta State, Seluku, is not really. But gully erosion is beginning to take over the town. But the point I want to make is this: you don't really get to know what the force of water is. I went to look at some of my farms, at the weekend. Ordinary stream where I won't cross. My second phone got damaged by water. Little stream flowing, pushing Chukwudi down. The elements, whether it's sun, whether it's wetness,
honestly,
when they descend on you,
at the extreme,
only God knows the kind of calamity that happened to our brothers and sisters.
Just to say that
they need succor. That's what I'm leading up to. Whatever anyone can do to help those people, let us do it. The elements, when they get angry, it's something to behold.
And just to clarify again, with your statistics, since we're going by, national authentic institutions,
those
so
are NEMA
I think we
figures.
should go with NEMA. And we've just been told now that NEMA is, putting out 30, is it?
Well,
30 lives.
37 is quote, and NEMA is being credited here. 37.
Well, what we have coming from us says NEMA 30 lives lost. So I think we should stick to that.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's a fluid situation.
Lives were
so
lost.
Yes,
Yeah.
lives were lost.
There are actually some dead bodies that might not have been picked
accounted
up.
for.
So let's just, there's always a little haziness on, at the edges or on the edges of things and situations like this.
But again, the 108 billion President Tinubu has approved to tackle flooding and erosion. Now, you see, again, yesterday, Professor Adanu was here, and he told us efforts, recommendations that have been made via research and, researchers. And they have come up with solutions, that both short-term and long-term solutions. What are the national and sub-national levels?
Yes.
So it is, advisable that the sub-national governments, team up with these national water resources, get this document, check the recommendations, and know what to do. They said we are not short of what to do, but it's doing them that's the problem.
Claire, we are only reciting an annual ritual.
Exactly.
The Chukwudi Ubaja in me, which obviously is a Tinubu fan, having seen what is happening, contests with the journalist in me over certain things. So I want to ask, the journalist in me is asking, are those reactive funds from the president when we should have had proactive funds to fight flood? That's the journalist asking the question now. You see, when we know that calamity looms, we should move ahead to fight it. Now, some of these flood problems are not something that even the, we like a lot of Turenchi. I don't hear states and local governments anymore. It's subnationals I hear. We get obsessed with words. These funds are funds that you need the World Bank to assist you in getting to effectively tackle it. So it's not just our governments here. How much are we reaching out to the outside world for such help? Because that is the magnitude of the problem.
Well, the document, according to Professor Danu, has just been presented to this administration. The research work was not done, within the life cycle of this administration. It was done before.
Yes.
But the work, the report, has been presented.
Yes.
So I'm sure that President Tinubu, with what has happened, will probably, take a look at that document.
Let's pray it's not going to be a case of bringing it up on file. If you were a clerical officer, you'll understand me. 1 year from now, bring it up on file.
Okay,
dust it up.
All right. I think is there another thing that we need to talk about just before we go?
Of course, Edo 2024.
But there's something I wanted to quickly draw attention to.
You're making it a subnational.
NAFDAC recalls Dove Beauty Bar soap. I think it's something people should be aware of. If NAFDAC is recalling, it probably would be for medical reasons or what. And so those who use hitherto should
when we blame Tinubu, we blame politicians, we blame state governors. Sometimes I say we should look in the mirror and see our first enemy. What have we done after NAFDAC? I'm talking to journalists now. Have we done a story as a follow-up to what NAFDAC has said? Or have we just released a press statement in the name of a report from what NAFDAC did?
But this should be a developing story. Anyway, before we go,
it's the publicity we need to give it that I'm talking about.
I must acknowledge a petrol station in Jabi. For the first time, I drove in and I didn't see jerry cans. And I asked, why aren't people selling to jerry cans? There's AP in Jabi area. just by Otako.
Yes.
They're selling at $9.50, no jerry cans. So you drive in and you buy your fuel. So I want to say kudos to them, not because of the price, but because they are tending to motorists. You come in, you buy no jerry cans.
I like this. You know why I like it? I hear our time is up. Let me quickly say this. Thank you for mentioning them. Furtherly, we'll be told, no, if you mention them, it's commercial and all that. So you go and do a story on fuel scarcity, and they say, don't show Mobile, don't show AP. That is nauseatingly timid journalism. Who told them that? Bless you.
But Chukwudi, let's leave you to reconcile the Chukwudi in you and the journalist in you. We don't like the conflict.
and the boy in
We'll
you.
see you tomorrow.
and the boy in you.
So our conversation begins after this break. Please stay with us.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of degree in mass communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session. BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803 383 4343. Announcer, Registrar.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Mention the reason a woman might cut her hair. She wants a new look.
You got you.
Survey said.
We all get that party where they get your back anytime or day. E go carry a matter for head like say na your own. Now so GoTV tanda for your side as your party for correct enjoyment. We not a tear pocket. For this GoTV Super Plus Golden Window, you fit touchlight all the 380 Premier League games, correct local shows, and better film. We day for you. Make your sharply upgrade or recharge your GoTV on top Super Plus to enjoy every today. The Super Plus Golden Window don't come out money now. No do yourself, oh. GoTV. Love it.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and that God has kept together as one indivisible entity.
This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. To begin our conversation on floods and emergency response, here is a background report by Ibrahim Hamidu.
Floods have become a persistent threat in Nigeria, displacing thousands and causing widespread devastation. As the country grapples with these recurring emergencies, a critical question arises. How prepared is Nigeria to respond to these disasters? Nigeria's geographical location in West Africa makes it vulnerable to flooding, particularly during the rainy season. However, the issue extends beyond rainfall. Climate change, inadequate urban planning, and insufficient infrastructure have exacerbated the situation, making it even more challenging to mitigate the effects of flooding. Although Nigeria's emergency response system has shown improvement, it still requires significant development. Addressing the root causes of flooding and enhancing disaster preparedness are crucial steps towards building resilience. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, leads the country's disaster response efforts. Nevertheless, local communities often bear the brunt of response efforts, highlighting the need for increased support from the government and international partners. This support is essential for building resilient infrastructure and providing timely aid to affected communities. Amidst the challenges, stories of hope and resilience emerge. Local organizations and volunteers are bridging the gaps in emergency response, demonstrating the potential for collective action. As floods continue to pose a threat, the importance of improved emergency response and proactive measures become clear. By working together, authorities and communities can reduce the impact of floods and create a more resilient future. On today's episode of Good Morning Nigeria, our guests will delve deeper into this critical topic, exploring strategies for enhanced emergency response, community resilience, and sustainable solutions to mitigate the effects of flooding. Join the conversation.
All right, thank you very much, Hamid Dudai, for that background report. Let's quickly remind you again, we're looking at floods and emergency response. Let's quickly introduce our guests who are ready for us this morning. Professor John Osonwa is here with us. He's climate change and environmental expert and a long lost but found friend of the house. Good to have you with us again. It's been a long while.
I was in the bush doing farm work. So I'm back now.
Yes, that's Dr. John Osonwa. Yes, and I'm awarding you yes, professorial title.
It's well
I'm sure it's on the way.
It's well earned. I've earned it already.
Oh, yeah. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Congratulations. Victor, okay, you have the next guest.
All right. From our Maiduguri studio in Borno State, let me welcome Professor Usman Tar, the Honorable Commissioner for Ministry of Information and Internal Security in Borno State. Prof, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria yet again.
Thank you and good morning.
Okay, we also have another guest, but once we are able to establish connection with him from Bauchi, we'll be able to introduce him properly. And just to also say that we're expecting NEMA officials to also join us for this very crucial conversation on the emergency response to disaster. So let's quickly begin from Maiduguri, and where we have the Commissioner for Information, Professor Usman Tar. Honorable Commissioner, we're glad you are able to join us for our conversation. Can you give us the exact picture of what's happening? We hear that the water is receding. Some victims are making their way back to their homes. And what's the response like now?
Thank you very much. The floods have affected over 1 million people, and immediately the flood started, the Borno State Committee on Flood moved into action. So far, over 50,000 people have been moved to safe grounds, while few are still trapped. Thank God, in the past 24 to 36 hours, the water has started receding and people are being prepared to return back to their homes. On this note, the Borno State government wishes to thank all the agencies and individuals that supported us in this difficult period. So there is relative calm in Maiduguri metropolis and Jere. Yesterday, the governor and a very powerful team went round all the camps and high grounds where people are seeking shelter and provided food and non-food palliatives and cash support to each individual that was affected by the flooding.
Commiserating with the government and people of Borno State, on the, lots of lives in this very devastating incident. And but can you give us an idea of the response? What's the response like? How have the people rallied round to assist, apart from what the state government is doing? In responders like NEMA and other non-governmental agencies, have they also been part of this rescue efforts?
Yes, we have received support from federal agencies and also development partners, especially NEMA. NEMA has always been supportive in our periods of emergency and in the period of insurgency. But we have also received support from our security agencies. The Nigerian Army, for instance, and Nigerian Navy too, they deployed their assets in order to rescue people from flood-prone areas to high ground. And our development partners too. Yesterday there was also a hot meal kitchen that was established by our development partners to provide hot meal to people in these difficult times. We have also received support from communities and from individuals that are on high ground. People have opened their homes and their businesses for the flood victims to seek shelter. People have provided the little food that they have to those that are seeking shelter. So as we speak, a number of the displaced persons are seeking shelters in the homes and business premises of their relatives. But a lot more are seeking shelter in established camps, including Bakassi, Irwa, Ali Sherif Primary School, Ashek General Primary School, Mod Fanami Gubio Primary School around Gubio Road, Gubio IDP Camp, Teachers Village. These are all places where people have sought shelter, and all the facilities have been opened for them. And the Nigerian Air Force has also established a makeshift medical facility. So across the displacement space, government, non-governmental organizations, development partners have all brought their resources to bear in providing succor to our displaced communities.
Thank you, Professor Tar. Thank you very much. But I'll stay with you. Reportedly, the flood has also led to escape of inmates from the custodial center there. How is this being managed?
Thank you very much. It is not true that inmates escaped. What we learned was that the medium security prison, part of it collapsed. And immediately the Nigerian Army Operation Harding K was invited. And the prison, the inmates were mustered before they could even escape. And all of them were transported to the maximum security prison located along Baga Road. So we are very grateful to the Nigerian Correctional Services and the Nigerian Army for taking prompt action in order to relocate the victims when the wall of the medium security prison collapsed. So that there was a very swift response, and there was no prisoner escape at all.
What is also concerning with what has happened in Maiduguri is the outbreak of diseases and the impact on human health. And UNICEF and the World Health Organizations are particularly concerned about how this matter is being addressed. I'm not sure what the state government is planning to do in the short term.
Thank you very much. The Borno State Ministry of Health and the Hospital Management Board, but also the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, and also NGOs, they are working very hard to to overcome or to provide response to the challenges of healthcare, particularly the risk of the outbreak of cholera and also malaria. There's also the risk of, contaminated waters and the shortage of clean water. We also have the risk of hunger and starvation. These are all risk areas. The Borno State government is working on the area of hunger and starvation by providing food and money that people would use to go and buy food, and survive. With regards to the risk of diseases and contamination, all agencies are working together, with the support of the flood committee. The flood committee is, receiving all supports from our development, local and international partners in order to, take care of the risk of cholera and other risks. With regards to contamination, for instance, we have received large quantities of chlorine that we are dropping on the stagnant waters, so that the waters become safer. But we are also engaging our communities, especially children, not to swim on those waters because they remain health risk. So generally, everyone is working, individuals and organizations, in order to provide support and in order to make sure that the risks of diseases and contamination are reduced to the barest minimum.
We thank you very much for the background you have set for this conversation. We will get back to you. Let me, in the meantime, come to the studio where Professor John Osonwa has been listening and waiting patiently. Prof, what's your assessment of the situation in Borno and how it's being managed so far?
Thank you so much. Let me begin by saying that I have long been a fan of Professor Zulum. What he's doing is remarkable as a governor, beginning with the first term, moving into this one. You don't usually hear that from me, but you have to give honor to whom honor is due. He has been doing a good job in so many areas. Even when it comes to climate change and environmental action, I think Borno State is one of the first states to bring in electric vehicles for taxi drivers, and they are using those. So he has done a tremendous job when it comes to good governance, and I think every objective in this would corroborate what I'm saying. So I believe, based on the history, that they are going to do the utmost best to ensure that lives are protected, that people are given relief. But what I want to focus on today, our topic is disaster response. But I want to go beyond that. I want to talk about disaster mitigation, disaster prevention, disaster adaptation when things like this happen. So if you look at the history of Nigeria now, going back to the year 2012, flood has become the most common and the most recurring natural disaster that we face in terms of impact, terms of cost, terms of damages suffered. And when I talk about damages, we're talking about in a myriad of areas. You're looking at impact to lives, people die. You're looking at impact to property. You're looking at impact to infrastructure, health consequences, farmlands submerged, inundated, washed away, food security, child mortality. So it is something that we need to look at very seriously now. There needs to be a paradigm shift whereby we prioritize disaster prevention, we prioritize disaster mitigation. If we cannot prevent, we can at least mitigate some of the impact. In this particular instance, we're looking at the breaking of the dam. And that's a major area we need to look at in Nigeria.
But we were told yesterday that the dam was not damaged. No, in fact, it was not damaged. It was just that, yes, the capacity,
was
yes,
breached. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So why do we breach dam capacity in Nigeria and the world? The reason is very simple. As the water is flowing into the reservoir, into the dam, it gathers sediments, it gathers debris, sand, and those things get deposited into the dam. So you need to have a regular regimen of desilting of the dam. If you are not desilting the dam at regular intervals, you are going to have sediment buildup. And that is why typically dams will breach their banks. That is why dams break. That is why dams get overwhelmed, because you have sediment accumulation. I have looked at reports across the board. We have over 300 dams in Nigeria, and over 50% of them have sediment accumulation that has reduced dam capacity to less than 50%. So when you have, so what that means is, in trying to build a dam, you project the quantum of water that will be collected, the millions of cubic liters that the dam can hold. And that is based on the flow of the water, the capacity of the river that is feeding the dam. So if you design a dam that is supposed to carry a certain volume of water, and over time that volume has been reduced by sediment buildup, you're going to have a problem. Sometimes also, the retaining walls are made of concrete and iron. Over time, water is a very powerful force. You can actually cut concrete with water. Just by dripping water consistently for years, you can cut concrete. So water interacting with concrete over time weakens the integrity of the concrete. That's why dams break sometimes. And this dam was built 1984, 1986. That's over about 40 years now, has been in operation.
That's
so
the
Allow Dam. Allow Dam in Borno State was built in 1984, 1986 completed. So it's been in operation for almost 40 years now. So over that time, you need to do major renovation, major rehabilitation, major integrity testing periodically. And I say this because back in 1994, there was another incident in Borno with reference to this dam, Alao Dam, in 1994, about 30 years ago. There was flooding in Borno. So what I'm saying is, not just with reference to this dam, but with reference to every other dam in Nigeria, we need to be proactive. Dams are very useful. You can use them for irrigation, you can use them for water distribution, power, even for tourism. We look at the Niagara Falls region, the Hoover Dam region in the U.S. Those are exciting tourist attractions that actually attract money. I've been to some of these people, paid money to see. So you can use dams for a myriad of purposes, but we need to maintain our dams. We need to make sure we're being proactive. And we also need to have early warning systems.
Professor Sama, we will come to talk more, deeply about flood mitigation and prevention. We're actually looking at the flood, response, now because of the devastation, the magnitude of devastation, that the recent one has got, especially in Borno and Bauchi and some states. And we also hear that as the water is receding down to the basins, then the consequential danger will be expected somewhere in Lokoja and the downstream states and all that. So we also need to examine what might happen in those states if prevention, efforts are not taken. But before we bring in Honorable Masoud Aliu, who is the Director General, State Emergency Management Agency for Bauchi, I'd like to return to Maiduguri. Professor Usman Tar, Prof, you two things that Professor Osanwa talked about, now the age of the dam and, of course, the routine or regular desilting of the dam. And I'm just wondering if this allowed dam has been in existence for 40 years, was it an oversight that it was not desilted?
It's not an oversight. I think we have a national challenge in this issue of desilting. We seem to talk, but we don't seem to walk the talk. Across the nation, our dams are getting silted, and desilting has been on the agenda of the National Assembly, on the agenda of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and so on and so forth, but also on the agenda of some national entities. But for some reasons, we tend to pay lip service to this issue of desilting. I think that we need to look into this issue of desilting more seriously and on a sustainable basis. As the Prof said, the silting should be done, maintenance generally should be done on a regular basis. But that said, the Alo Dam has been in existence for 40 years. The integrity of the dam has not been compromised so far. The relevant agencies of government have done the integrity test. The dam is still standing. The engineering and the design of the dam is still intact. The structures are okay. They have this basic structure, fundamental structure is okay. But I think a column gave away a particular column, a very small one, and that created a flood path for the overflown, for the excess water. That is what is happening. The dam itself is very okay. But a structure that has that has worked for 40 years, I think, and there are more dams that are even older. I think there's need for a national review of all our dams and a review of our desilting policy so that we move away from this tendency to talk a lot, but not to implement. In Nigeria, we are very good in policy formulation, but implementation appears to be a huge problem. That is what is happening here too. Going forward, the relevant agencies should need to sit down and look at not only Alo Dam, but also all the other dams.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Usman Tar. Let's now head to Bauchi, where we have been joined via Zoom by Honorable Masoud Aliu, who is the Bauchi State Director General of the Emergency Management Agency. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, sir.
Please give us a sense of the situation in Bauchi. What's the state of affairs concerning the flooding, and how are you dealing with it at the moment?
Well, as you are aware, now
I think we can't connect with him at the moment. We can't connect with him at the moment, so perhaps have to return to the studio where we still have Professor Songwa. Now, he's admitted that's Professor Tar, that we have a national problem when it comes to desilting. When it comes, I think, let me also add maintenance, because beyond desilting, if something is 40 years old, he says there are some others that are older than those. Have they been managed? Have they been maintained? It's the same thing. We talked about collapse of part of the Medium Custodial Center in Bauchi. Some of them were built in the 1800s. In fact, most of them were built in the 1800s. And that's why you have this collapse here today, collapse there tomorrow. We have a problem with maintenance. How do we begin to change this culture?
As I said, the issue of response is interwoven with the issue of preparedness. How you prepare can affect how you respond. I think, we're all Nigerians. We see what is going on. The nation is vast. Resources are not always adequate to meet every challenge. But I think a good thing has happened now. Mr. President has released 108 billion, I heard in the news. Yes, 108 billion naira for disaster response. What if we could match that in terms of going back to our dams now to make sure that a similar incident will not happen somewhere else? We have over 300 dams in Nigeria. And as we said, Claire alluded to this, the water that has been released will continue to flow downward. Very soon, you're going to have effects in the Lokoja, Benue, Taraba, all those areas will now have excess water. It may not be directly this water that is coming, but it will create a backup effect. If water that used to flow naturally now has another volume of water that has taken its place, you're going to have backup. Backup leads to flooding of riverine areas and coastal areas. So we need to have a holistic approach. The key point here is there are things that we can do to prevent or at least mitigate flooding in Nigeria. And some of them are infrastructural. The first thing is, some of these dams, there should be an early warning system installed, sirens. I remember 40 years ago, living in the U.S., I lived in a small town called New Bedford. We were right on the ocean, and they had built levees. It's a huge concrete barrier that prevents the water from rushing in. Because a lot of times these things happen at night when you're sleeping, so you won't even see the water until it submerges you. So, but what happens is when the water level reaches a certain level, alarms will go off. So people can wake up and evacuate to higher ground. We need to do that with some of these communities that are prone to flooding historically in Nigeria. So you need to have an early warning system. If you have a siren going off warning people, trust me, a lot of lives will be saved. Even if it's in the middle of night, children can be rescued, moved away from harm. The other thing we need to do is, there are communities that are right on the waterfront and they don't want to move because their existence, a lot of them are fishing communities. Moving them has proven to be difficult, particularly in the Benue-Lokoja axis. Those places, we should build a barrier to protect them from flooding. Those that we cannot protect should be moved inland with government support, and that is what is missing sometimes. These people, you say, we know we're in harm's way. We know we are prone to flooding, but what can we do? We can barely feed. So government should provide support, preemptive support, ahead of response to help those people to move, evacuate them permanently. Then there's another component, a paradigm shift we need to have. We are seeing now that a lot of our businesses and farmlands are flooded out on a frequent basis. We need to institute flood insurance. Government should earmark funds to insure people. There are companies that can insure people against property damage. I saw the market was flooded, all the goods, all the wares in the market soaked with water, condemned. So markets like that, there can be group insurance for the market, so that if flood comes, government can activate the insurance. And it could be provided by a private company that does insurance, but government can help to pay the premium and keep their citizens insured. Same thing with farmland. Because of what has happened now, virtually all the crops, all the harvest has been washed away. Even if you can pull something out, it's not good, it's not safe for human consumption again, because mold and mildew will set in the next 2 days in that whole region. So we need to have insurance.
That should also be part of the emergency response, the flood insurance aspect of it.
Yes.
But I'm also interested in the early warning, because that is prevention. We must prevent things before they happen. That means being proactive.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, apart from the sign or signal message thing, it's quite, would be an appropriate, method, or even in the local communities where you have the use of the traditional instruments.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes,
the gong,
the gong and all that.
Yes.
And all that would also be an appropriate measure. But again, the dams themselves, they have capacity, and they have markings.
Yes.
Minimum marking and maximum marking.
Yes.
That should also be, a point. That's what I thought.
Yes.
That once the water exceeds the minimum and gets to that maximum, that's
a siren should go off.
Exactly.
Very loud siren.
So what had happened to those who are supposed to manage the dams? Is it that they are not observing when water exceeds those marks to warn the community or to raise alarm?
As we have said, a lot of these dams were built 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Because I know the Kainji.
Yes.
So I'm sorry to interject. The Kainji Dam has that. I remember, was it 2012?
Yes.
During the flood. The flood. Yes,
Yeah.
we got there and we saw the markings.
Yes.
Where the water,
the maximum level.
The maximum
danger
level
level.
and all
Yes.
that. And Kainji is also, I hear, Kainji is water is being released from Kainji Dam at the moment.
Yes. We are in the peak of the rainy season. The rain has been accumulating. And there's also something I need to add here. The reason we're having all this frequent flooding now also has to do with climate change. There are global climatic factors that are also at play here. For instance, you look at the Arctic Circle of the world, it's made up of ice, a lot of ice, 30 million square kilometers of ice. That ice, because of global warming, the heating of the planet has been melting at a very rapid pace. In fact, in the last 30 years, the NASA images we have, we've lost 50% of that ice is gone. And it has gone into our oceans. It has gone into our rivers. So the natural water level is higher now. So what that means is you're going to have more accumulation in your dams. You're going to have more water in your rivers. That's why you have flooding. River Niger, River Benue, almost every year there's flooding. The overflow.
And the intensity of rainfall is heavier.
Yes, that's also a climate change factor. When the weather is hotter, evaporation of water happens at a more rapid pace. You pick up more moisture. And when there's excess moisture in the atmosphere, it comes back as rain or snow if you're in the U.S. So you're seeing all these blizzards and hurricanes and severe rainfall. It is because of climate change. Then the third factor, particularly in the northern states, we have desertification now. And what desertification does is it aridifies the soil. It makes it hard, almost like concrete. So water loses its natural ability to absorb into the soil. So when you have water that ordinarily should go into the soil, it runs off. That's what we call flash flooding. The other factor, man-made, deforestation. We are cutting all our green cover. You look at estates, we're building 1,000 houses, not a single tree, no green area within the estate. So when you now concretize your landscape, you risk more flooding. And that is what is happening in a lot of these places. Natural desertification is creating concrete surfaces all over the north, And then man-made estate development, we're cutting all the trees, deforestation. So that is why you have this massive
So
flooding.
apart from the siren, I know we want to go to the Zoom Connect. Apart from the siren,
yes,
what other early warning, signal can be adopted?
Well,
with regards to flooding,
we also have we can have community engagement. We can have people going to speak to people in their languages. As the water is rising, you can have actual interface, knocking on doors, making sure that people are moved out of harm's way. Because you can see the water rising. It doesn't happen overnight.
Whose responsibility will that be?
State government, federal government, NGOs, even the media organizations. As you're getting reports of what is happening, we can also be putting that out. But the problem is how you have this general recalcitrance, ingrained recalcitrance of people. They think, oh, our grandmothers, they survived flooding. It's no big deal. It comes, it's seasonal, it goes, we go back. I remember I was just out, this was my last point on this. I remember after the 212 flood, I was passing through Lokoja, and I saw people seated in front of a house playing draft. And you could see where the watermark had been, the flooding, above their heads just a week ago. They had gone back to
no, but because you also said they need support.
Yes.
You move to higher grounds with support.
Yes.
You understand? You saw what the Borno state government is doing.
Yes.
They have moved people to different, including the Bakassi camp and technical schools, and they are providing food items. They're also providing medics, and they're also providing all sorts of needs that the people would have. So if people are short of, provision of their needs, their daily needs, they'll probably move. But when you ask them to just relocate,
yes,
you talk and you're not matching your talk with action.
Well, that's because we tend to react when it happens, when it dawns on us. We now see, even if we keep saying there's no money, when it dawns on us, money comes.
It's true.
When there's an emergency, money comes. But nobody's willing, we are not quite willing to spend some of those, monies to ensure it will seem as if, I don't know, if the thinking is that, are we wasting money? But let me get back to why we continue to hope that we can get clear signals to the DG Bauchi SEMA in Bauchi. Let me get back to Professor Usman Tar. How close are you to resettling? But since you say that the water has continued to recede, I think for 2-3 days now, how close are you to resettling the people back to their homes?
Thank you very much. At the moment, we are looking at this matter very carefully. We don't want to rush to returning the people back to their homes until we have done assessment of those homes, until we are sure that the water has not only receded, but homes are dry and healthy for people to return back. This could be in the range of 3 to 4 days for homes that are on relatively higher ground, on medium-high ground. But for homes that are in low plains, this could take more, maybe a week, based on our forecast. And also based on our understanding of the rainfall pattern and the possibility of more rains. The past 3 days we have not seen rain, but we are also told that in the next few days there will be no rain. Maiduguri and Jere, even though the Prof said, the soil has aridified and solidified and they are not absorbing the water, I dare say that in Maiduguri and Jere, and indeed Borno State, the soil is one that is sandy and it quickly absorbs water. So you could see flash flood now, after 12 hours, everything will be dry. So the absorption capacity of our soil is relatively high, so that in the next few days, all this will be a thing of the past. But as I said earlier, we don't want to rush to resettling people because the risk of contamination, the risk of diseases, waterborne diseases is still high in some areas. And the homes too, we have to do cleanup operation that has to involve, multi-agency framework. We have to engage all the relevant stakeholders to do cleanup operations. But people will also, their relatives will have to come and do cleanup, and also, to make sure that those homes are, are available for return. So no rush, but in the range of 3 days to 1 week, we hope to resettle majority of our people.
Well done, Honorable Commissioner, and we must also commend the state governor. Indeed, like Professor Osama, said earlier on, Governor Omar Zulum has been very proactive and active. We see, all that he does for the people of Borno State to ensure that, even the indigent, live a very comfortable life. But I want to ask you, we hear that the NCDC has also, raised a team of response team to Maiduguri. You want to confirm that for us. But talking about early warning signals, what constitutes early warning signals for you with regards to flooding?
Thank you very much. Let me start on the issue of Governor Zulum's proactiveness. When the flood happened, he was away in Saudi Arabia, but he was monitoring the situation in real time. And he had already established a committee on the flood before he left. Don't forget that Governor Zulum is a professor of agricultural engineering, irrigation engineering to be particular. So he's, conscious of, environmental issues. And the flooding situation, we saw it coming days back when we realized that the rainfall pattern was on the high side. And of course, we were conscious of the age and the capacity of Alau Dam. So there was a committee. The committee was visiting the Alau Dam on daily basis. And Governor Zulum also set aside the relevant resources to make sure that, in case flooding happens, our people could be catered for. And that was exactly what happened. As soon as, the flooding happened, people were, with evacuation started. On this note, let me thank again our armed forces, but also, subnational entities, including especially the governor of Adamawa State, Governor Fintri, for sending boats. Adamawa is, riverine, more riverine than us. They sent boats in order to rescue people. The Nigerian Navy too sent us boats, and we're actually using those platforms. And Governor Zulum was leading at the front, even while he was away. He arrived the day after the flood. He arrived, and immediately he moved to action. He didn't even go to the government house. He started visiting the high grounds, the camps and the high grounds, visiting people, giving them psychosocial support. The following day, he was out 5:30 in the morning with all the commissioners and all our relevant stakeholders, visiting the camps, including those places where people are still trapped. And he set up, the government set up committees to be visiting those places where people are still trapped pending their evacuation. So Governor Zulum is exceptional. He's a miracle to Borno State, and we are very grateful to God for that. Talking of the early warning, early response, well, we have a state early warning strategy, and that strategy pays attention to early warning in urban spaces and also early warning in the rural areas. with regards to, severe climatic conditions. So for Maiduguri and Jere area where the Alau Dam was located, the early warning, in addition to the traditional, siren system that appears to be, not working properly, but we also had, as the Prof said, we also had the community early warning system, but also real-time monitoring of rainfall patterns and also of the, volume of water in the dam. So we saw it coming, but I think at the moment that the dam, the capacity of the dam was overstretched, our thinking, our, early warning thinking was put on overdrive. So I think early warning is something that we have to work on as a nation. In Borno State, the float has shown that our early warning, strategy was overstretched. So it's something that we have to sit down and work as nation and as subnational entities. Part of it is the engagement of communities, but also the use of technology. These days, technology is used in studying weather patterns, and also, using global, technological systems to study the environment to make sure that, our systems, our infrastructure, and so on are safeguarded. Dam is one of them, and the early warning system in Borno State, clearly was tested on this note, and as a government, we are working to improve our early warning and risk management strategy.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Usman Tar. I understand that the DG of the Bauchi SEMA, Masood Aliu, is ready to speak with us now. Thank you very much for joining us. I asked earlier, that you give us a sense of the situation in Bauchi regarding this flooding and how the state government and, of course, you at SEMA are managing the situation.
Thank you very much, and sorry for the network failure. Are you hearing me now? Okay, thank you. According to this year prediction released by NAMENT and NISA, Bauchi State is among the 31 high-risk states of the Federation, and 12 local governments out of the 20 local government of the state will be affected by the flood according to the prediction. In addition to this number, another 4 local governments are now affected, making the total of 16 local governments out of 20. And also, according to the prediction, there is a high risk and moderate local government. The most affected local government here in Bauchi State include Kirfi, Katagum local government, Shira local government, Gade local government, Zaki local government, and Gamawa local government. While the category B is Misau local government, Are, Dambam, Ganjua, Alkaleri, Bauchi, Toro, Warji, Itas Gadau, and Darazau local government. As a result of this devastating flood, we lost thousands of houses, thousands of farmlands washed away by water. Not only that, the road linking Azarite to Maiduguri is cut off, and the road linking Azarite to Jamare, that is Kano Road, is also cut off. The road linking the local government to Katagum local government is cut off. The road linking Shira local government to Azarai is cut off. The road linking Gamawa to Bauchi is cut off. And also the road linking Udubo to Potaskum in Gamawa local government is also cut off. Another road in Gamawa local government linking Gamawa to Alagar village is off. also another road local government to Golol state. 70% of the total land is now flooded. The road Barak Gombe in local government is now also
I'm just wondering, what's the weight of all that you have told us, you know, the devastation and the roads that have been cut off. What is the weight of this, you know, impact on your capacity to provide response? How has it affected your capacity to provide response?
His Excellency himself, he quickly go to Katagum local government for the assessment tour, where he visit the 3 local government. After he come back, he sent a very high-powered delegation under the leadership of the Secretary to the State Government with the 4 commissioners to go and assess the level of damage. We quickly provide the access road to Katagum to Maiduguri, that is other to Maiduguri road. And His Excellency is doing whatever possible to see he assists the affected communities, where he distributes thousands of bags of rice, maize, sorghum, millets, as well as blankets, mats, and millions of naira to the affected communities. We, SEMA, we quickly go and intervene. We provide a canoe for the search and rescue to all the affected local government areas.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Masood Aliu. We'll pause here and take a break so that when we return, the conversation can continue. Please stay with us.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
We all get that party where they get your back anytime or day. E go carry a matter for head like say na your own. Na so GoTV tanda for your side as your party for correct enjoyment. We not a tear pocket. For this GoTV Super Plus Golden Window, you fit touchlight all the 380 Premier League games, correct local shows, and better film. We day for you. Make your sharply upgrade or recharge your GoTV on top Super Plus to enjoy every today. The Super Plus Golden Window don't come out money now. No do yourself, oh. GoTV. Love it.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God. for the day of reckoning when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on, the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And we've been discussing the flooding, particularly in Bauchi and Maiduguri, and the response so far. But let's get back to Bauchi, because I understand that he will take his leave not too long from now. So, Honorable Masood Aliu, how do you assess, what's your assessment of the support that you have been able to get locally and perhaps from your development partners?
Okay, as I told you earlier, we lost thousands of farmlands as well as houses. Unfortunately, some people lost their lives. We have the total number of households displaced, 30,436. We have the total number of households being affected by this flood, 293,371. We have the total number of electric poles damaged by the flood. We have also the total number.
Honorable Masood, actually what Victor is asking is whether you have received some form of support, you know, from maybe other international partners, development agencies, federal agencies. Have you also received support, assistance from NEMA to enable you, you know, provide relief to those affected communities?
Yes, we received allocation from NEDC, and we are now waiting the arrival of the trucks. That is only the assistance that we receive now.
See,
we are waiting and appealing for the NEDC, Northeast Development Commission.
Okay. What about the health, you know, the health risks, you know, involved in the flooding? Have you also received any form of any team from NCDC?
No, we are still waiting.
You are still waiting for NCDC to come?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but what's your assessment of the impact? What do you think, you know, will be the risk in terms of health risk? Is Bauchi at risk of maybe cholera, malaria, you know, or any public health issue?
Yes, there is no cholera, but the malaria are now disturbing our displaced peoples. It's only the malaria program we have here in Bauchi now.
Okay, Honorable Masood Aliu, Director General, State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA Bauchi. We thank you for, you know, coming to Good Morning Nigeria, and we stand in solidarity with you and every other state where, you know, this devastation has occurred. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's come back here. But before we come back to Professor Osonwa, I'd like to bring in Professor Usman Tar, Honorable Commissioner, Minister of Information and Internal Security, Borno State, to speak on the issue of flood insurance. Because Professor Osonwa raised that, and I thought I also, you know, alluded that this could also come in as part of the, emergency response. I mean, response to disasters such as this. Prof, I don't know, how do you view this? What's your perspective to this suggestion about flood insurance, given, Nigeria's disposition to insurance?
Thank you very much. Well, insurance is a very interesting matter here in this part of the country. I think, Prof, thank you very much. This is a very good idea, actually. I lived in UK for over a decade, and I know the importance of insurance. With an insurance system, we could easily mitigate. We could easily provide fund at very quick interval to provide support for flooding. But in this part of the country, insurance is not, even if you institutionalize it, it may not sell. I think a better idea could be maybe a disaster fund, wherein, maybe some entities, corporate or private entities, could be taxed 1% or 0.5%, to put into that endowment, so that if there are, emergencies like flooding or fire disaster, it could be used. But here in Borno State, pending the establishment of this kind of fund, we have the Borno State Security Trust Fund. The trust fund, part of what it does is to provide support for, matters like, fire disasters and emergencies, flood emergencies. And also the SEMA, State Emergency Management Framework. This is what we use, but my perspective is that insurance is a good one if we could institutionalize it, and if we could also hammer it into the mindset of the people. At the end of the day, with this insurance, private people can take up privately, but also the government and institutions can also, key in, so that the insurance policy can be useful. Insurance is good, but where governance works, where governance is stable, and where governance is sustainable, and where governance is working very well. In Nigeria, some of what we do is on a haphazard basis. I think it's a good idea. It would sit down and work on it. But the alternative would be to, establish, flooding or emergency trust fund.
But Victor, I think we have quite a number of funds. We have disaster relief fund. We have even, so these funds are already in existence. Prof, sorry, Victor. You want to comment on that?
I concur, Claire. Nigeria has so many funds. ITF, NSTIF, yes. PENCOM, this one, that one.
But are they aligned, though?
Ecological funds. We used to have ecological funds.
Ecological fund.
And those monies are deducted from source.
From source.
But stepping back, there is nothing wrong with having funds already earmarked for disaster before it happens. As a general concept, that is fine. But what I'm talking about is insurance. And I said, the money that government will use to provide disaster relief can be used to pay the premium upfront. It will be pennies on the dollar, as we say, because what you use to pay is usually very minuscule compared to when you have to now deal with the damage yourself, the full gamut of the damage. So I think we can have a hybrid. But we also need to look at some of those statutory funds already set up to deal with disaster, to deal with ecological issues. This is an ecological issue, squarely.
Exactly.
And we have ecological fund.
Is it 5% or 3%?
It's a reasonable sum each year. It aggregates to tens of billions.
5% ecological fund.
Yes. So this is the time to activate such funds. And what I have been saying is we need to have a paradigm shift in our thinking. A lot of these funds we use for emergency response. There are people you cannot respond to because they've already died, or the damage is so severe that just giving them money will never. If you have lost everything in your household. Some of those things have sentimental value. Just giving you money cannot replace. Maybe the first wedding, your wedding picture from 30 years ago, or whatever it is that you have kept, those things cannot be replaced with money. So we need to be proactive in prevention. One of the ways we can do it, as I said, is to have an insurance mechanism. There are private actors who can play in that space. They're already providing insurance. We even have companies doing agricultural insurance now and making a profit doing it the right way. They do proper assessment. They pay when they need to pay. So government can step in to the extent of ensuring that there is fair play in the industry and also paying premium for their farmers. I'm particularly worried about the farmers. Yes, devastation to property is bad, but when you have an entire state or a vast portion of the state inundated, that is going to lead to food insecurity. It's going to exacerbate. We already have food insecurity in a lot of places. This will just worsen it. And then food prices, you look at what is happening now. Price of yam, 1 tuber of yam, 5,000. Now, if you have in that whole area all the yams damaged, submerged, what is going to happen to food prices? Everything will go up. The poor man will suffer even more. Women will suffer. Children will suffer. So insurance is a good way to mitigate what we know is going to be a recurring occurrence now. Because of climate change factors, we're going to have more flooding in Nigeria. I warned that this will happen in 2012 because you're looking at the Arctic ice is still melting. That's why you're having flooding. And we can even look further south now. Places like Lagos are prone to more flooding now. You see videos every now and then, streets flooded because the ocean is higher. So the ocean migration into land is easier now. And that also happens in areas where you have dams, because to build a dam, there must be a water source that feeds the dam. So those areas are also prone to flooding. So government should earmark a reasonable chunk of ecological funds, reasonable chunk of intervention funds, response funds, to dam rehabilitation and early warning systems. We talked about digitization of everything now. The setting up a siren system now doesn't cost very much. It's just an alarm system that is water sensitive. When water begins to go into a certain place, the alarm goes off. That's it. It doesn't cost that much. So all our dams could have an early warning system that is effective, in addition to the community outreach system.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor John Osonwa. And I like that Professor Tar has also taken the challenge that they were going to look into insurance for the people in Borno. The only thing is that he said they are going to try to hammer it into the psyche of the people. I would rather suggest that you massage it into the psyche of the people so that there is no resistance. But by the way, let me ask how much of a learning curve this whole experience has been and how it is likely to influence how the Borno State government behaves going forward with regards to preventing situations like this.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a steep learning curve, as you said. Well, we've learned our lessons. Going forward, we shall commence conversation on how to improve our early warning system, on how to improve on our disaster and risk management systems, emergency response, and issue of prevention that the Prof mentioned, but also issue of interagency collaboration. There is need for real investment in interagency collaboration so that we can economize resources and also not to duplicate efforts. We've learned that initially everyone was just, driving into the, taking the, platforms into all the nooks and crannies and provided whatever support they could provide. But later, we quickly called a meeting to, galvanize, to centralize, and also to see how we can develop. And we also took stock in those meetings, provided us with the opportunity to take stock from the perspective of each participating agency. So, within 24 hours, we've learned to, come up with a collaboration system. But I think these are all matters that we need to put into a solid, early warning system, or early warning policy, early warning, institution. At the moment, our early warning strategy is domiciled within the committee, but also within the SEMA framework. Another issue is this settlement pattern. Part of the reason why the flooding became severe in Borno State is that people built on waterways, especially around Lagos Bridge area, Gwange area. And so when the flood started, a lot of houses and businesses were swept away. I think going forward, the committee, flooding committee, would need to look into the issue of settlement so that, the Borno State Geographic Information System, BOGIS, will begin to, look into the issue of settlement, not to allow people to build on the waterways anymore. It's a very sensitive issue here in Maiduguri. Once the government begins to talk about building on settlement pattern, people react very adversely. But I think public interest is at stake here. So going forward, we've learned to look at this issue of settlement proactively and constructively and realistically. We wouldn't allow people to blackmail government and go back to build on those waterways. Those that are swept away, they will not be built again. Those that are at risk, BOGIS, the Borno State Geographic Information System, has been instructed to look into the matter so that even when flooding happens, water will be allowed to take its course in a safe manner. And with all these other, embankment and so on provided, the risk and the impact of the flooding could be mitigated.
Okay, Professor Tad, thank you. Just the last question from me before we come to round off our conversation with Professor Osanwa. From the records that it's available, in the public domain, in 2024, in fact, in August, I think federal government released the amount ecological fund that accrued to all the 36 states of the Federation. And that was put, at over, 36, some millions of naira. I'm not sure about the exact figure. But the data says Borno State had the second highest allocation from that ecological fund. I'm just wondering, in terms of deployment, do you think that the ecological fund has been adequately deployed? Because it is meant to address issues, disasters, such as the one that you are dealing with at the moment.
Very much. Borno is a very peculiar case in the sense that in addition to the natural disasters, we also deal with man-made disasters, particularly the insurgency. The insurgency has put a strain on our environment. We have, unexploded munition all over the place. We have agricultural systems that have collapsed virtually. The environment has taken a very heavy toll, the insurgency has taken a very heavy toll on the environment. The government invested the resources that are used to, salvage the environment to make it, conducive for people to, use it for agriculture and for sustainable livelihood. I would say that the resources were utilized properly, and they are still being utilized for, disasters. That is all I could say.
I asked this question because you were calling for a separate, disaster fund. And it's just a reminder that we already have the ecological fund, which is supposed to address issues like this. And if Professor Osanwa is asking that, look, you know, state governments can also explore the avenue of insurance. That will make things easier. But again, we're happy that you welcome the suggestion, and hopefully the action governor, Umar Zulum, will be the first to put this to use. I'm hoping on that.
Okay. We just have to keep our fingers crossed. Now, Professor Osanwa,
yes,
as we gradually, you know, wind up this conversation, what lessons are there for us to learn as a nation, and how should we begin to behave going forward so that we don't have this kind of, even if there are natural disasters and you know, it goes a bit above what we are able to manage immediately, it's not going to be this bad because we adhere to early warning signals and we take preventive measures.
Yes, you know, there are 3 layers of responsibility here. We've focused largely on the federal and the state, but we also need to look at community and individual responsibility. You see, Professor Tao touched on a very important issue. People are building on floodplains. People are building on evacuation routes for water. And they do that because the land is very cheap. It's not even legal to build in those places. So you have people who are very, very stubborn. And because of
but someone who approved it. I'm sorry.
I was going to get to it.
And also because, you know, to get a land now, a piece of land now, it's not, yeah, exactly. So
yes, people approve those places.
That's what I wanted. Remember, I said we have multiple layers of responsibility. So you have people who are pushing to come into rapid urbanization. That is the problem. Nobody wants to live in the village and farm like me. Again, they want to come to the city, Abuja, and live in the city. Unfortunately, the city is very expensive now.
Everybody wants to wear a jacket, suits.
So people will go into areas that are not fit for human habitation. Some of these slums and outskirts, somebody makes himself the landlord and partitions parcels of land for 50,000, 100,000. People are building in areas that are not designed for human habitation. So when the flood comes, it doesn't have the natural pathway to flow out. It backs up the community. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, blockage of our drainage systems. We throw all these sachet, all these water sachet, bags, plastics, things. We are not cleaning up our gutters.
Gutters or drainage.
The way we should.
Drains.
Estates should have a day designated for everybody to come out. Let us clean our drainage system so we don't get flooded.
As in the days of old, environmental sanitation.
Yes, they can do that.
Well, I think we have to leave this conversation here. It's a fine place to leave it. So we'd like to thank you, Professor John Osanwa. The last time, well, I remember engaging you here, you were Dr. John Osanwa. Now, Professor John Osanwa, I would like to thank you very much.
I've been a doctor for 30 years. There has to be improvement.
Of course.
Indeed. Environmental expert and climate change and environmental expert. We thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.
And let's also thank Professor Usman Tar, Commissioner for Information and Internal Security in Borno State. We thank you very, very much for your time and your contributions to the program this morning. And do extend our regards to Governor Zulum and our sympathies to the people of Borno State.
And hopefully we will get to have His Excellency join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
One of these days.
Yes. Honorable Commissioner, I hope you passed the message. Anyway, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today, this Thursday. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have, even though we were discussing disaster. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. I am Claire Adela Abdulrazak.
And I'm Victor Azu. Enjoy the rest of your day.